I'm Melvin Neat, and I chair the ECIA Public Sector Committee. I will be the facilitator for this afternoon. The purpose of this webinar is to share the final results of a project that the ECIA and EUROSAI have been working on to discover the position on integrated reporting in the European public sector. We also want to give you some additional insights, in particular, the potential value that integrated reporting can bring, and perhaps very importantly, the role that auditors can play. But first, a little bit of background on ECIA and EUROSAI. So slide 2, please. The ECIA comprises 34 national institutes of internal auditing and represents nearly 48,000 internal auditors. Its aim is to promote good governance and internal audit at a European level. EUROSAI comprises 51 members from the European States Supreme Audit Institutions and the European Court of Auditors. Similarly, EUROSAI encourages the advancement of public sector audit and good governance, so we have a lot in common. Before we proceed any further with the webinar, I'd like to briefly hand over to Pascal van den Bosch, the Secretary General of the ECIA, who will explain the procedural issues for this afternoon's webinar.
Thank you, Melvin. Good afternoon, everyone. You will have the opportunity during this webinar to participate to some upcoming polls. And for that, I would like to invite you to use Slido that you can use on your mobile phone or on your PC. The event code is "Your journey starts here," or an easy way also to connect to Slido is just to read the QR code that you have on this slide. Thank you, Melvin. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Pascal. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Arno Visser, who is the President of the Netherlands Court of Audit. Arno has held the presidency since 2015. Before joining the Netherlands Court of Audit in 2013, Arno was a member of Almere Executive Council, and before this was a member of the House of Representatives. Arno is going to speak about the potential of integrated reporting in the public sector. So without more ado, over to you, Arno.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for introducing me. Dear organizers of this webinar, dear participants, it's my great pleasure to kick off your webinar on integrated reporting, but foremost, it's my pleasure to be part of your journey. As you said so, it's a journey we're all working on. And I would like to start my keynote with a famous quote from a man we surely all remember, Nelson Mandela. I quote, "Action without vision is only passing time. Vision without action is merely daydreaming. But vision with action can change the world." End of quote. Less than 30 years ago, South Africa was burdened by apartheid. That changed when Nelson Mandela, who had been released after decades of imprisonment, and then President Frederick William de Klerk started negotiations that resulted in the abolition of apartheid. But that important step did not yet bring equality and justice. A next step included making the economy accessible to all residents of South Africa. To realize this, Professor Mervyn King was commissioned in 1992 to lead a committee to draw up a good governance code. A good governance code for the South African business community. The code was intended to lead a more inclusive economy. It formed the basis for a development towards an integrated way, an integrated of doing business and reporting together, not only in South Africa, but also the rest of the world. According to the International Integrated Reporting Framework, integrated reporting applies principles and concepts that are focused on bringing greater cohesion and efficiency to the reporting process and adopting integrated thinking as a way of breaking down silos and reducing duplication. It improves the quality of information available to providers of financial capital to enable a more efficient and productive allocation of capital. It focuses on value creation and the capitals used by the business to create value over time, contributes towards a more financial, stable global economy. This special genesis of integrated reporting was made clear to me when I visited the International Integrated Reporting Council in London some years ago. But to my surprise, I was also told that it is mainly the business community that uses the instrument, or not, or hardly, the public sector. I was told only in Australia and New Zealand the government is taking it seriously. Well, that shocked me. Well, you think that politics and government in the first place have an eye for value creation. In the broader sense, it was not. Large companies such as Coca-Cola and in the Netherlands, the national railways have now embraced King's integral way of thinking. And this leads, for example, to investments by Coca-Cola to reduce water consumption and reuse water in the production process. And the national railways that not only invest in trains, but also in good bicycles and bicycle sheds to reduce total travel time for their passengers. Not only does this result in more train passengers, but also in less CO2 emissions by reducing the travel time of its passengers and thinking door to door, thinking in a different way, integrated thinking, door to door is the approach. Nevertheless, there are also initiatives in the public sector to take a broader view. I'll take an example for the Netherlands. For example, the so-called Broad Welfare Monitor. It was developed as a request of the Committee of the House of Representatives some years ago. It was the Dutch Statistical Office, CBS, that worked out this idea professionally and publishes it annually on Accountability Day, the third Wednesday of May in the Netherlands. The Broad Welfare Monitor, which includes the Sustainable Development Goals, paints an integral picture of our welfare and well-being. It describes our level of education, crime victimization, and many other things that contribute to an overall sense of welfare. However, the monitor is now a separate document and not part of the decision-making process about policy and public money. The matters mentioned in the monitor are no part of the plans of the budget. The House of Representatives has asked now the government to map out how the Broad Welfare Monitor can be integrated into an overall decision-making process, as well as at the departmental level. Now that's where it gets interesting, because that's how the connection is made between the use of public money, the policy, the measures that are taken, and the social effects to be achieved. Moreover, according to that motion of the House of Representatives, it concerns general decision-making, and that is beforehand, and not just about the annual reports and accountability afterwards. It's integral way of thinking. To make a wise decision, you must be able to learn from what has been tried in the past and improve things based on the experience or do things differently. It sounds logical, but it is far from its practice. This is all too often apparent from research by an audit by the Netherlands Court of Audit. And an example for you is the approach to improve air quality in the Netherlands. Central government, provinces, municipalities, they're all working on this. But no clear agreements have been made in advance about tracking the money involved and the goals that will be achieved. So it remains unknown how much money is spent in total and what the effects of the various measures are. As a result, no one knows, really no one knows, how taxpayers' money can be used most effectively for the purpose. If we succeed in improving this information, cleaner air will be on the horizon for less money in a more effective way. Implementing the motion can help prevent such a recurrence of such situations. In February this year, 3 Dutch planning agencies have presented a joint approach to anchor the monitor in the central government budgeting system by focusing on a limited set of key broad welfare indicators. These economic, social, cultural, and environmental indicators comprise the here and now, the later, future generations, and the elsewhere, the other countries. This is, of course, a meaningful step into the right direction of our journey. When the indicators from the monitor are linked to the vision and action in a budget, and later come back in reflection and learning, in accountability, a lot can change, to speak with Nelson Mandela. So I come to my conclusion. The journey towards integrated reporting by the government and by public entities in general deserves all support, also from the audit community. It has the potential to end the current practice of compartmentalized reporting. It has the promising perspective of a concise, comprehensive accountability story on public resources and policy effects. It's like a tragedy, as analyzed by Aristotle in his book Poetica, marked by unity of time, place, and action, and resulting finally in a catharsis. That's why I'm very happy with the cooperation between EUROSAI and ECIIA on this important topic, and with their and your public call to join the journey. I wish you inspiring discussion during the rest of this webinar, and most of all, I wish you a good and pleasant journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Arno, for that very inspiring, informative, and thought-provoking presentation. I think it's always good to have a big picture view and to explore the potential of these things before you get into some of the detail. I think the presentation has set the scene very well for what follows this afternoon. So thank you very much indeed. I would now like to introduce the speakers for the next sessions. First of all, Soledad Llamas, who's chair of the EUROSAI ECI working group. She's also Internal Audit and Risk Director for Canal de Isabel II, which is the water authority for Madrid. Next, we have Martin Dees, Strategic Advisor on Audit Policy, Netherlands Court of Audit. Martin is part of the EUROSAI ECI working group. So we have some distinguished speakers with us this afternoon. So without more ado, I will hand over to Soledad to facilitate the next session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melvin. Good afternoon. Let's talk about the document. The objective of our work was to identify, share, and promote best practices about non-financial and integrated reporting. Representatives from across the European public sector have been asked about the following. First, the extent of their adoption of non-financial and integrated reporting. Second, the information included in these reports. Third, whether it is voluntary or mandatory. Fourth, the standards used, and several other questions. We have more 68 answered from 28 member states. If we can see the slides, maybe the next, Pascal. Okay, thank you. Here you can see all the member states that collaborate with us in this document. As well as identifying the situation across the European public sector, some of the best practices have been explained with detail into the document too. And before moving, I would like to clarify the definitions. Always is good to start with definitions. Non-financial reporting covers environment, social responsibility, governance, anti-corruption, and fraud. Non-financial reporting was driven by climate change, and usually this information is presented in annual reports and accounts. The other way, integrated reporting includes both financial and non-financial reporting, and it's presented in such a way as to show how organization creates value in the mid and long term. The main point for integrated reporting is that the entity should carry out a reflection exercise on how they add value and how they transform the capital they receive and how new product adds value for the stakeholders and the society. And last but not least, really important, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive proposal that has launched in April by the European Commission. It used the term sustainability report, and we will speak about this in the webinar. Melvin, the floor is yours.
Thank you for that introduction, Soledad. We now come on to a number of questions which I'm going to pose to both the ECIIA and EUROSAI representatives. The first question I would like to ask is, what types of information are most commonly included in the non-financial reports in the public sector? Can I ask you first, Martin?
Yes, thank you very much, Melvin. Well, in the Dutch public sector, there's a longer tradition already of including non-financial information in the annual reports. This has started for more than 20 years ago. Performance information has been included in the annual reports. And with performance information, I mean information on activities, on outputs and outcomes. And it's still a journey as well to find the optimal balance between quality and quantity of that type of information. Besides the performance information, we also see compliance information. For example, on the regularity of financial transactions and of the compliance with principles of sound financial management. And a variety of other types of non-financial information, for example, about the quality of public services and information on staff and salaries, which is a sensitive issue, of course, in the public sector. And a part of the Dutch public sector is also influenced indirectly by the European directive, because this is translated in public sector accounting regulations, for example, for education entities and social security entities. So I would say a rich variety of non-financial information already. Some public entities have already decided to start their journey towards integrated reporting. And I will come back later with an inspiring example of that.
Thank you, Martin. Soledad, can I ask you the same question?
Yes, of course. I think we have a slide. No, Pascal, if we can go to the next. This is, I think maybe we have a poll. If do you want, we can answer the poll, and after I'm going to answer the question. Are you agree?
Okay. Here we have a poll asking about what information is most commonly included in non-financial reporting in the public sector. So we'd like here to hear your views. Okay, I think we have a good picture. Soledad, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Melvin. Yeah, here we have that 75% of the attendees answered that environment, and second, social responsibility. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your answer and for your collaboration. Now here we have the result. The result for our survey show that non-financial information in the public sector cover the following: environmental protection and social responsibility in first position, following by respect for human rights and anti-corruption. all of which are fully in line with the philosophy of the European Directive, set up to improve greater transparency for the largest European organization with regard to their non-financial information. Consequently, firms need to share data regarding environment, policies, social responsibility strategy, anti-corruption, and bribery tactics. All these topics appear in our document. Thank you, Melvin.
Thank you very much. We'll move now on to another question. The next question is, what are the benefits of integrated reporting? And again, I think I will seek the views, first of all, from you, Martin.
Yes, thank you very much. I think there are many benefits of that type of reporting because it offers a unique opportunity to connect various dimensions of accountability. You can integrate accountability towards your supervisors and the democratic bodies you are accountable to, but also integrate horizontal types of accountability to stakeholders, both external stakeholders and internal stakeholders. Also, I think that integrated reporting fuels and reflects integrated thinking and integrated decision making. It strengthens the connection and the dialogue with stakeholders, as I already mentioned, external stakeholders and internal stakeholders, which benefits more than just integrated reporting. It strengthens and benefits the whole operation of your organization. And it gives you the opportunity to tell a concise and comprehensive story on value creation to the general public. So I think there's many benefits to that type of reporting.
Thank you, Martin. Before we go to you, Soledad, I think we have a slide 11, which gives the results of our survey. Could we have slide 11, please? Okay, over to you, Soledad.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, regarding the main perceived benefits from the application of integrated reporting, the most significant, according to the survey that you can see in the slide, and in my opinion too, are the improvement of transparency followed by developing communication with external stakeholders. Both are fundamental part because they are linked to the philosophy of integrated reporting. How the companies add value is communicated to stakeholders, as Martin says.
Thank you. We'll now move on to another question. And I'm talking here about which countries have inspiring examples. So again, can I ask Martin to talk a little bit from your side? Yes,
one inspiring example from the Netherlands, which recently came to my mind and was discussed, is of a high school, an education entity, a large education entity, which already has published an integrated report for 5 subsequent years. And not only does it present an integrated report in line with the IIRC framework itself, it also trains its students, its finance and economy students, in the art of integrated reporting. So what can happen is that 2 students from this high school come to my organization, the Netherlands Court of Audit, to review our integrated report, because we want to lead by example a bit in as a Netherlands Court of Audit, and we have published ourselves an integrated report for the 2nd time. But it was constructively, critically welcomed by the students of this advanced high school. So that is an inspiring example in the Netherlands.
Thank you, Martin. Soledad.
Yeah, some countries are more advanced than others in this journey due to these different regulations and maturity of this issue. We can see in this slide the percentage of countries that have answered that the non-financial reporting is published in the public sector in their country, 44%. We can see that there is a diversity of answers in Europe in this slide. And for example, in more detail, in Italy, public entities include a broad range of non-financial accountability information in their annual reports. And it's important to note that in Spain, the transposition of the European Directive 2014/95 has been more demanding with respect to the requirement for companies, although it does not especially mention to the public sector.
Thank you. The fourth question in this session is how can we ensure that integrated reporting remains concise given its wide scope? There is a danger that all the information we're capturing will result in an even larger report than what we've been used to in the past. So the secret is to keep it concise. Can I ask you, Martin, to give us some insight into this, please?
Yes, this is surely a challenge, but it can be, the puzzle can be resolved, I guess, because here the challenge is to focus on the essentials of public value creation. In a rich variety of responsibilities and accountabilities any organization faces, it's really difficult, of course, but also very important to focus on the essentials. That's not only important for the preparation of an integrated report, it's also important for the focus in the steering and management of your organization. And how do you get focus and grip on the essentials? We believe that, therefore, it's again essential to engage with your stakeholders. What do the supervisors think is essential in your performance? What does society think? You can see from the example of Shell. So the judges in Holland, they have decided that Shell should respond to the social responsibility of reducing emissions of CO2. So engagement with the stakeholders, external stakeholders and your internal stakeholders is again essential. A materiality analysis should follow. And from that process, the essentials of public value creation for any specific public entity, they should come out of that process. And then it's the art of designing your report to deal with those essentials, to put it in the form of a story which connects history, present and future, and connect the information. So, and that doing that way, I'm sure it's possible to have both integrated and concise report.
I think this is a very interesting issue, Martin, because of course the danger of this is all about transparency, and I guess the danger is if the integrated report becomes a long, unwieldy document, then transparency won't be achieved because no one will read it. So I think this is a very important aspect.
I think so, yes.
Soledad, have you any comment on this question?
No, I think it's not necessary. Thank you.
You're okay. Okay, well, that completes this part of the session. Just to try and summarise where we are, the poll we had certainly backed up the findings of our research, our survey. The environmental protection, social responsibility seem to be the main types of information included in non-financial reporting. With regard to the benefits of integrated reporting, transparency, improve relationships with our external stakeholders, and maybe most important of all, the promotion of integrated thinking. So a lot to mull over and think about then. Well, what I'll do now is to move on to the second part of this session, where we're talking about sustainability reporting. So I'll start off by handing over to Soledad to introduce this session.
Yeah, thank you, Melvin. I think we, Pascal, we have the poll, no, that maybe we can share with our attendees. Yeah, they can answer this question about the different role that the internal audit can have to this. No, this exactly. No, please. Before that, this exactly. Before. Exactly this. I think our attendees are answering this question, and we can see that 71% of the internal audit assume an advisory role and 40% an assurance role. Okay, fantastic. Next slide. Thank you, Pascal. Okay, internal audit can play a fundamental role in promoting integrated reporting and non-financial information. You do its independent position, its global vision of the company, and its knowledge of risk. And there are different roles that auditors can play, and this depends on the degree of maturity of the project. First, as you can see in the slide, during the implementation, you can audit the change management process, as well as advice on how to approach the project and information needs. After that, when implemented, internal audit performs an assurance role, which may include assessing the risks of the processes involved, defining the independence of the relationship of the 3 lines, of course, according to the 3 lines model, and last but not least, ensuring the effectiveness and efficiency of the process. I believe auditors can play an important role in the quality of information. So I invite you to do an exercise. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you, Pascal. In COSO framework, specify that information must be all these characteristics: accessible, correct, current, protected, all of this. No, this is connected to the sustainability report because we use a lot of data in sustainability report with very different characteristics. Now think about sources of information and what data or information we receive. And this is an exercise that we can be with internal and external sources of information. Next slide, please. Okay, Melvin, would you mind help me with this exercise?
Okay.
Yeah, please tell us sources of information and the data that we receive, external or internal.
Okay, with for internal information, I'm thinking of organizations have intranets as opposed to internet. They receive internal complaints.
Yeah.
They might have staff surveys. They may have in-house magazines information.
Fantastic.
And of course, they have all the published material, such as reports, accounts, budgets. They may have social media networks that are internal, various sources.
Yeah.
Shall I go
For
on
example,
to external, or do you want to finish internal?
Yeah. For example, whistleblowing, no? Maybe we can receive a lot of information.
Yeah, whistleblowing and complaints, I think, is a rich area for information.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and other that maybe is not really serious, but is around the watercolor. Maybe we can have a lot of information of the company about the next promotion or the next movement or the goal. Okay, thank you very much, Melvin, for this. So now a reflection. Next slide, please. Okay, I think, okay, I'm not sure if there is next slide. So I want to have a reflection. With all the information that we receive and we use to evaluate objectives, to make a strategy decision on to organize the company, does this information, yeah, all this information have all the characteristics that do mention before? And now this is the pool that we have about if we have all this information that we have meet this characteristic of information. Fully, wow, fully. Okay, a little more. Mostly, yeah, I think it's the most normal answer. Okay, thank you for your answer. I want to summarize this point. The stakeholders are very concerned about the quality of sustainability information that companies report today. The objective is to have the same level of assurance for financial and sustainability reporting. Internal auditors can play a fundamental role in the definition of the main data and in the evaluation of its quality. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Soledad. Can I ask the next question to Martin? What types of assurance can external audit we've got there give on sustainability reporting in the public sector?
Yes, before we go to the dream collaboration, I think that by nature the external auditors are committed to giving opinions on the true and fair view of information, on the reliability of information, and they audit that from an independent external perspective. So what we are already used to, the practice has already developed regarding non-financial information included in management reports as part of the annual reports of public entities. And then the audit scope relates to the consistency of that non-financial information with the information in the financial statements. And the question whether there are any material deficiencies in that information. So what we already see is audit opinions or information close to the audit opinion, which covers consistency and absence of material deficiencies. What we also see in the growing practice of integrated reporting, for example, ABN AMRO is a very important practice in this area of integrated reporting, that the external auditor is asked to conduct either a review engagement with limited level of assurance or an audit engagement with a reasonable or high level of assurance. And in the integrated report issued by ABN AMRO, you will see a mix of both types. And ABN AMRO itself also strongly believes that this type of external audit involvement contributes to the credibility of the integrated report. So there's a very important role and a developing role for the external audit profession as well.
Thank you very much, Martin. Now we come on to an interesting question. What is the dream collaboration between internal audit and external audit regarding sustainability reporting in the public sector? Soledad, what do you think?
Okay, as with any project between internal and external audit, the essential is about collaboration. No, it's essential to work together to promote good governance, accountability, and audit in the European public sector, including sustainability reporting. Also, promoting their use in the public sector to encourage entities to report to their stakeholders, to explain how they create value and how they will continue to do so in the mid and long term. One way to achieve a goal of transparency and better communication in the public sector is sustainability reporting. And it would be wonderful if internal audit and external audit could promote this message.
Thank you very much, Martin. Any comments?
No, I can only dream about such a type of collaboration. I think it's fantastic. I think both external, internal auditors, both from their respective responsibilities, can have a very fruitful coordination and cooperation, and also mutual support to each other. Where I think the natural emphasis of the internal audit profession is a third line type of responsibility, with a focus on governance, risk management, internal control, which of course also become more and more integrated. When the journey of integrated reporting is really started. So you would have integrated governance, integrated risk management, and integrated internal control. And the external auditor, as I just explained, is primarily focused on the true and fair view of the information, but can use the work of internal audit where possible, and should use it from an efficiency point of view as well, and can relying partly on the work of internal auditors and also executing own audit procedures, independent audit procedures, can reach hopefully more and more the reasonable assurance type of opinions. That would be very nice. So I think external auditors, internal auditors have much to learn from each other and can support each other along the journey.
Thank you very much, Martin. And I guess a good example of collaboration is exactly what we're working on today, where we've collaborated on integrated and non-financial reporting.
Exactly.
Certainly, I guess the idea is to optimize our resource, the use of the audit resource in promoting these types of things. Anyway, the next question. Why is it difficult to promote sustainability reporting in the public sector? What are the targeted stakeholders for this reporting? Can I ask Soledad for your opinion on this one?
Yeah, thank you. In my point of view, the main difficulty is that there is no mention of the public sector in the European legislation. And the main integrated reporting framework specifies that it's designed for the private sector. Although it's true that there are several publications have been produced since then that focus on the public sector. We can see in the slide other changes in the public sector that we explain in our report. For example, first, problems with information. It could be difficult to obtain it and access the information, and of course, the quality of this data. As you can see in the exercise that we did previously, we could have a lot of problems with the quality of the data. Another key issue is the human resources. No, we need people that help with this, to have a staff with knowledge and skills. And regarding your other question, Melvin, about the stakeholders, public and private sector stakeholders can be broad, including clients, contractors, employees, political parties, environment group, partners, international organization, parliament, etc. From my point of view, the main stakeholders that need to be informed about how we add value and how we use public funds properly are the citizens.
Agree. Okay. So I'll ask Martin the next question. How can auditors promote the need for relevant, accurate sustainability reporting in the public sector?
Yes, I think that they could promote it by explaining that the benefits, the promise of integrated reporting, sustainability reporting, moving on to integrated reporting, clearly outweigh the difficulties and challenges. So the advantages, as we have explained them, like better transparency, better accountability, and a stronger connection with both external and internal stakeholders, and also achieving more integrated decision-making, integrated thinking in the organization, clearly outweighs the complications. And of course, it's also realistic to discuss the complications. Pascal has already, Soledad has already mentioned a couple of these limitations. Information overload, we already discussed, that's a risk. So important to focus on the essentials, and I think auditors can also help to help the organization focus on the essentials, which is also very important, I guess, and the auditors could also promote that, is to tell a balanced and credible story, which not only includes stories about successes, but also stories about failures and points where the organization can learn. And of course, auditors can also help to develop the stakeholder dialogue, which is so essential underpinning integrated reporting. So they can promote the needs by explaining both the benefits and also the costs. And also, of course, they can offer their expertise in developing systems, information systems, and also developing reports according to generally accepted frameworks and standards. So supporting the journey, also advising using their knowledge and expertise, and of course, at the end of the day, offering their assurance as a means for increased credibility of the reports. I think there's a big role to play.
Yes, thank you, Martin. I mean, it's interesting because in one of our earlier survey results, we talked about the role of the auditors being advisory, and we talked about the assurance role. The promotion role is very, very important, isn't it? So it's not just our job to audit, it's to promote if we think it's a good idea. And auditors, using their very developed influencing skills, can play a key role in this. Well, thank you for going through those questions with us. We now have a little bit of time if we have any questions from the audience. We have time for a few, I think. They're coming up on the screen, so we'll go through as many of these as we can. The first question I would like to ask Soledad, what do you mean when you say that in Spain, the transposition of the law is more demanding?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I speak about this when we are speaking about the different situation in Europe, no? And in Spain, we have this more demanding transposition, no? We have the European Directive 2014/95, And each country transposes this law. And in Spain, we transport more demanding. Why? Because this applies to a smaller company. No? This applies in this year, the companies with more than 250 employees, is necessary that they publish this information. So this is more demanding because in the rest of Europe, this is the higher companies, and in Spain is also the medium and smallest company that need to publish the non-financial information. This is why I say that in Spain is more demanding this transposition.
Thank you, Soledad. Another question, do you believe that auditors can give reasonable assurance over sustainability reporting? Martin?
Yes, I think that's very well possible. Also depending of the state of maturity of the quality of information on sustainability, which is available, it's generated by the organization in question. So if internal control over sustainability reporting is at the right level, then auditors are able, the information is verifiable, then the auditors should be able to express a reasonable assurance opinion, as already happens in some examples, for example, in our country. So, but it is, of course, a different piece of cake compared to the financial audit. And sometimes it also includes other disciplines, other areas of expertise needed to assess this type of information. But the job can be done, and I think it's one big important area for the next years to get on board on this type of top assurance as well.
Thank you, Martin. Soledad, have you any comments on this one?
No, I think it's not necessary. I think Martin explained fantastic.
All being said. The next question, what is your recommendation to embark everyone in the organisation in the integrated reporting journey? Soledad.
Yeah, I think this is a really, really good question. I think we need to transmit and emphasize that, especially in the public sector, is really, really important that we transmit how we add value and how we use a proper application of proper resources utilization, because we use a public sources. And I think the citizens demand more transparency in management. So the integrated reporting is a really good, okay, we have a clock. I think integrated reporting is a very good inform that that help to this connection with the citizens and how we explain them, how we add value in the mid and long term.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to the next question because, oh, Martin, would you like to just comment on this one?
Yes, so far you already heard the clock, but I have an opinion on this question as well. I think that to embark everybody within the organization for the integrated reporting journey, it's important to give your staff, your colleagues, a voice. So to have a real open mind for their views of what counts in the organization, what is essential. So include the colleagues in the internal stakeholder dialogue aimed at pointing at the essentials, which should be included in the integrated report. So if you're interested in their voice and you include them, then they will be enthusiastic partners in the journey, I'm sure.
Thank you. I think the next question is for you, Martin. Do you know which EU SAIs have already introduced integrated reporting into their regular reporting, apart from the Dutch SAI?
No, I think for many SAIs this is an area. Also, the question has arisen whether to get on board on this journey. So far, I only know from our own organization. So I'm not aware of any other SAIs at the moment. But I don't want to say that there are no. It's just that I didn't see it yet.
Okay, thank you. And the last question so far we have is, do you have any links to some good examples of integrated report from public organisations, but not only from public organisations. Before I ask you, yes, we do have some links. Part of our work has been to try and find some of those links, and some of this will be included in the report, which is to be published shortly. But I will ask Soledad to comment.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, Melvin, we are going to include in our report the best practice in Europe and the different situation in Europe. So you can find in the annex different best practice. And of course, about integrated reporting, you can see in South Africa that they maybe, I think, they are the best practice in the world about this topic in the public sector and the private sector too.
Thank you, Martin.
Yes, in addition to that, as I already mentioned, this Avans High School in the Netherlands is really expiring. It's not the only one, so we will indeed provide some links to inspiring examples. And I promise that I also then will try to include the previous question. If we can find any inspiring examples from other Supreme Audit institutions in Europe, we surely also will include them.
Okay, thank you. And I think we've got time for one more question. Can we expect non-financial subjects to move to financial subjects? What is the challenge? My interpretation is, before I ask my colleagues, we've been financial subject previously. We've moved on from just financial to financial and non-financial to integrated reporting. But that's my interpretation of this question. It's certainly a challenge. We're used traditionally to financial reporting. We're all comfortable with it, but it's not enough given the current demands. So the journey is, I guess, to non-financial reporting to integrated reporting. Would any of my colleagues like to comment? Soledad or Martin?
I also could imagine one association I have when I read this question, that some non-financial issues are maybe non-financial in the first instance, but do have financial consequences. So part of including, for example, information on environmental protection, well, you can be faced with huge financial costs if you don't take good care for example, environmental protection measures. They could turn out to become financial at the end of the day. And this is a typical example of integration of non-financial and the financial perspective in the integrated report. So there could be relations between the two.
Thank you very much. Well, that concludes the questions, and I think we're running very well in accordance with the timetable. So it remains for me to sum up. Having said that, if anyone has any questions or observations arising from this afternoon's webinar, please let us know. And there's a slide which tells you who to contact. But we'd be very pleased to hear from you, examples of good practice as well as questions. Okay, I'd like to conclude by thanking all of our speakers for their excellent work and for Pascal for all the background work that she's done in making this webinar possible. So what's the conclusions of our work today? Well, undoubtedly, what I call traditional financial and compliance orientated reporting do not meet the demands for accountability and transparency of the present day. These demands are very likely to increase given the focus on climate change, global warming, sustainability. In my view, the public sector should lead by example and provide information on the full scope of its resources, achievements, impacts, and how it itself adds value in the longer term. Integrated reporting, in my view, is a very important vehicle for achieving this, but it's not just a means of providing information. Integrated reporting promotes a different mindset for decision making. It promotes better decision in my and our view. With regard to auditors, we've got a very important role to play, not only in providing advice and assurance, but by actively promoting integrated reporting as a significant contribution to better decision making and better corporate governance. The results of our work that we've been carrying out, and indeed this afternoon session, will be incorporated in the report which will be published on the 1st of July, and I really recommend that you read this report, and feedback will be most welcome. So the next steps are the report publication, the key messages from this afternoon's webinar, and together with any questions or observations you may have, will be sent around. And I think that's it as far as the next steps are concerned. I just have a final say to Pascal in case I've missed anything. Pascal?
Thank you everyone for joining the webinar, and thank you Melvin, and thank you to all the panelists for the very interesting discussion we had. And I invite all of you to read the report as from the 1st of July. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you all the people who've keyed in and taken part in this webinar. Keep safe. Goodbye.
Bye.